welcome to the Law of Positivism podcast. I'm your host, Shireen, and I'm the creator of Law of Positivism. I'm here to help you on your spiritual and healing journey. I am a certified yoga and meditation teacher, a student of Chinese medicine, a doula, a Reiki practitioner, and a passionate, highly sensitive person. I want to use my knowledge to channel information and messages for you to grow on all levels. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode. Thank you for being here, and I hope you had a beautiful full moon weekend and just been able to soak in this beautiful change and this beautiful transformation that nature is going through right now. And this week we're going to talk about compassion, which is so important. And I have Sofia Viotti with me. She's a psychologist who's working in Sweden. She has written 2 books about compassion, stress, and achievements. And in her private practice, she meets clients with stress, anxiety, self-criticism, and relationship problems. And she uses the method of compassion-focused therapy and ISTDP as well. And she runs different workshops and in psychological sustainability and self-care at work. And she's so amazing, and she in this episode she talks about her take on compassion and how you can use compassion in healing stress and anxiety, depression, sensitivities that are blocking you. And we talk about how meditation is an important part of this as well, and how it's important to have healthy boundaries and really giving yourself compassion to and working really deeply, like not just talking about these blocks or blockages that we have, but also like going into the body and feeling how it feels and doing exercises that works to heal these. So I think this is such a relevant topic with everything that is going on in the world, within us, around us. And yeah, I hope that you enjoy this episode. I just want to also remind you all that I do have a YouTube account, a YouTube page where I share my meditations and also these episodes. So if you want to check it out, it's Law of Positivism on YouTube, and you can subscribe to just stay in touch. Sometimes we do Instagram lives that I share there as well with videos. So yeah, and I hope you enjoy this. Please give me feedback. I'm so happy and grateful for everyone who leaves reviews or gives me feedback and shares the podcast. It really means everything to me. So thank you so much and enjoy. Hi, Sofia. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi.
Hi. I'm so happy that you're here. And the first question for you is, how do you stay mindful and present?
I have, like the last 10 years or something, been doing a lot of like meditation and yoga and mindfulness training. But nowadays it's more like I do it in periods, but it has been so integrated in me, so I don't always have to do a practice. It's more like I'm in one way always aware of things happening in me, like what my thoughts are or my feelings and what happens in my body. So it's like I always have it with me, and then of course sometimes I listen more to it, and sometimes I'm maybe a bit too stressed, so I ignore it. But yeah, so it differs. Sometimes it's more like a practice. I do meditation, I do mindfulness training, compassion training, or yoga. but sometimes it's more like it has to be with me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And there are so many great tools. Also, I think we discover new things all the time that we can do and practice.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And I think that's the has been really helpful for me, because I am a person that is have quite a good discipline. So I can go into some kind of practice and really do what it's meant to, the way it's meant to be done. But for me, it's more helpful, and I have recognized it the last years, that it's more helpful to experiment and to be playful, and sometimes have a more strict practice, and sometimes combine different practices and just play with it a bit more.
yeah, I think that's the best thing to do, also to find your own way and own practice. And I'm
Yeah.
really grateful that you're here. I think it would be so great if you would just share with the listeners who you are. We've known each other for, I think, over a year now
Yeah.
through yoga. And I would love for you to share with the listeners who you are and what you do.
Yes, of course. I'm a clinical psychologist, so I have my own private practice and work with clients with two methods. It's compassion focused therapy and also ISTDP. So it is methods that are a lot focused on feelings and your body and your nervous system, and to help yourself connect more with yourself and have a lot of self compassion. So that's one thing I do. And I also run a lot of workshops. Uh, Before it was a lot in compassion focused therapy, but now the last year I have done more and more workshops in workplaces and helping people integrate self-care and psychological sustainability in the job they are doing. So and I also have written two books about compassion and stress, and when people get a bit addicted to achievements and performances. So yeah, that's what I do.
That's amazing. My first question that popped up when you were talking also is how you, like, did you always know that this is the type of psychology that you wanted to work with, or did you find that on your way? Like, how did you get into this compassion based psychology?
Yeah, I first I'm my university studies was in cognitive behavior therapy, but for me, I lacked the knowledge about more the feelings and the body, and also what can I say, more of a caring approach, or more of a in one way a spiritual or existential approach to it. So during my studies I began reading books about compassion focused therapy and took classes in it. So it was a longing for something else and a deeper level that brought me to that method.
And did you, like, on your journey, on, like, it's you were having these type of, I mean, it's studying at the university is also a lot of it's a big commitment. Did you experience in your own life that which led you into the interest of this, like
everything, because it's also very interesting that it's very based around performance, like everything we do always have to be performance. And how did you experience that in your own life?
Yes, I think I have always been drawn to like doing things and have a lot of drive in my life. And sometimes it has been problematic and led to a lot of stress and also self-criticism, because when you are really focused about things have to be really good, or you have to do a top performance, then it's so close with self-criticism and judging yourself. So for me, I had a lot of self-criticism in my life, and I think, yeah, of course, that was also a way into this method, a way to find ways to be more compassionate with myself, and also a longing to have more playfulness and yeah, another kind of approach when you do things, that the focus doesn't have to be on doing it in a top performance way. It can more be joyful and a way to experiment with it. So for me, the last years, I can really see that things have transformed in myself. I'm not at all that critical, and I enjoy performances and doing things in a total another way, because it has been more playful and more about being in here and now and see what happens.
And what shifted that for you?
It's difficult to say exactly what it was, because I think in one way, when you work with a method and you do a lot of experimental exercises and working with like your body and your emotions, then I think suddenly something shifts, but you can't say exactly, like with your logical mind, what it was. But and I think that's so fantastic that you can in one way trust the process, that doing like meditations with compassion exercises, taking in like pictures of being cared of, or doing meditations when you visualize that you care for others. After a while, things starts to happen. So I think it is that I have been doing exercises a long time, and also a lot of self-reflection, and also working with it with others, to teach it and to work with clients, and in that way you like live the method every day, and that also helps me with my attitude and what happens in my life.
Yeah, and I think that it's beautiful, because most healers, because what you're doing is also helping others to heal themselves, right? So all healers are doing that, actually. It's always self-healing, but all of us have experienced something where we want to help others also because we have experienced it ourselves, and then maybe found a way to work with it and heal it. And then that's what's so beautiful, because when you realize that you might have experienced this, also to learn it and to be able to help others. Maybe that's actually the purpose of that experience. Then it becomes so beautiful, the synchronicities that you can see so clearly. So I think that's that's very common in people who work with others.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And I think so. What is compassion in your mind?
That's an important question, because it has like different definitions in different methods. But in compassion focused therapy, you talk about it as a sensitivity to suffering in yourself and in others, combined with a commitment to alleviate it and also to prevent it. So the commitment part of it is really important, that it is something you choose to do. And if you put it in words, in more everyday words, it's about have the courage to get really close with what's difficult, or what in ways you suffer, or what's hard for you, and really try to understand it, to care about yourself, and then try to change things, to help yourself with it, instead of avoiding, instead of criticize yourself. So I think it is really what you need in all kind of work with yourself, or in all kind of therapy, that you really need the courage to get close to what's difficult. And that's also if you think about it in self-compassion, but also with compassion to others. If we are going to help others, or doing something good in the world, we also need to have the courage to really look close to the difficulties and what's the suffering, and really have the motivation to do something about it.
And how so this notion that you can use compassion to overcome maybe different stressors in your life, or achievements, wanting to achieve, like how do you apply that to compassion to it?
You can say that it is some steps you do. Like first, it is that you need an awareness, that you need to stop the automatic thinking and stop your automatic behaviors, and really look into yourself and be aware of your body, your feelings, your thoughts, and then see like what kind of difficult patterns do I automatically get into. And the next step is to understand it both like, okay, it is this is a typical pattern for all human beings to feel stress in different situations, or to have the need to get really pleasurable things and that kind of things, to understand it in a human way, but also to understand your own history, like why do I run into this kind of patterns, what has happened in my childhood that that makes these patterns my typical patterns. And then the next step to choose, how do I want to help myself with this? Can I experiment with it? Can I do things in a different way? And it can, when you look at it, it can looks like it's a simple way, but to be able to do all these steps, you need to practice mindfulness, and you need to practice being understanding to yourself. So it often needs a lot of training to be able to do those steps. And in compassion focused therapy, we have a lot of exercises to help with that. Exercises to be mindful, but also exercises to be able to calm your nervous system. Because when you are in a lot of threat mode or a lot of drive, then your behaviors and your thoughts are really automatic, and you run into stress and you run into problematic drive behaviors and things. So often the first thing you need to do is to be able to calm yourself, and to also put yourself in a feeling of safeness. So we also have a lot of exercises to help with that.
And that's really interesting, because this CFT, maybe I saw it on your website, it's also based in Eastern, I mean, there exercises that come from Eastern traditions of meditation. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a mix. Like how do you use these? Because you do practice yoga and these type of mindfulness practices. You use so you use kind of the same with your clients to integrate both the psychology part and the mindfulness part.
Yes, and you can also do body exercises to connect to calmness, but also to connect with a strength in yourself, because we know that the way you move your body and the way you like sit and stand, that affects your feelings and your thoughts. So often people that are like anxious or depressed, you can often see that on their body. And people often try, when they are trying to change their mood, they try to think about things, and sometimes they try to like change their feelings, but that's really, really difficult. But the thing you always can do in any kind of situation is to change the way you have your body. You can always like sit more straight up and connect with body postures that are more connected with strength or with calm, and you can always work with your breathing and doing that kind of things to help yourself switch to another mood state. So compassion focused therapy has a lot of exercises that come from especially Buddhist psychology. So it you can say that CFT integrates like that kind of practices, but it also integrates different kind of modern psychology methods. So it's really an integrative method.
It's very holistic, and I think it's sometimes therapy that is talking can be very good. I mean, when you're sharing something, your brain can change when you're sharing and talking about something, maybe something that you usually don't talk about, and you don't get an objective view on it. So that's great. And then it's really great to have that embodiment of what it means to ground yourself, to find that compassion. So it's great to use all tools, because then you, as we said, like different practices are great for different purposes, and some practices are maybe work better for some people when it comes to doing something with the body.
And the problem with a lot of therapists today is that they are too focused on talking. But what we know is that for big changes to happen, you need to be emotions need to come up in the therapy room. And of course, sometimes that happens when people talk about things, but often people just sit and talk and they can intellectually understand things about themselves, but nothing really changes on an emotional level. And sometimes they change things in their behaviors, but some weeks later they go back to their old patterns. So we can see that in therapies that work more with emotions and with what happens in the body, that often the changes last longer.
I can totally see that. It's so valuable to work with the body, because otherwise we also get disattached because we're already in our head, like we're putting words into it. But there are so many layers also. So maybe in one session you get into one layer, but then you have to go deeper, and it takes a lot of, everything is energy. So when you're talking, okay, you're creating a certain frequency, but then when you go deeper, you need to, that's why dancing can be therapeutic, or singing. It's like you tap into a different frequency. And I think it sounds like a great way to do that. And you mentioned both anxiety and depression, and I think many people walk around and don't know really what they're feeling, and it can sound so, sometimes when we think about these two, we think it's like really extreme states where you're like incapable. But often a lot of us walk around and have a little, like it's more of a scale, or like a different degrees of it, but you're not aware, which in therapy can come up also. So maybe just like what's the difference between these two, and how can they manifest maybe in simple ways in life?
Absolutely. I agree with you that a lot of people walk around with like anxiety and stress and feeling down and depressed, and as you say, they're not really aware of it because it has become so normal. Maybe they have been like that all their life, and sometimes you also get the message that you need to accept having anxiety, or you just have to tolerate it. But to see that anxiety or depressive states are not something that is, what can I say? It's not a normal or healthy way to have that kind of moods almost always. You can have it like when something extreme happens, but if you walk around with it every day, then it's sad to have it that way. And I really recommend people then to try to seek help to work with it. Because often I meet people that they describe things like always being really tense, or having problem with their stomach often, or have a lot of headache, or being a bit dizzy in situations, and all that kind of things are stress symptoms or anxiety symptoms. And when you think about depressive states, that's more when you often like feel a bit down, or when you feel lack of energy, or when you often walk around feeling a bit sad, because that's also something that people misunderstand, that sadness and depression isn't the same. So when you feel sad about something, that's a healthy feeling, and all healthy feelings, they go up and then they go down some minutes later or some seconds later. But and often you also feel, when you feel sad, you feel more connected with things, and you can feel released, and it can feel really calm afterwards. But more depressive feelings, then you feel more tired, you feel more like you're isolated from others, that you can feel alone, and it's often combined with really negative thoughts and self-criticism and things. And both of those states are, you can say that it's consequences from when you don't, when you're not connected with your feelings. So you are in situations which triggers anger, or which triggers sadness, or guilt, or positive feelings, but sometimes you have learned that those kind of feelings aren't safe to feel. So instead, when those triggers in you, then you instead feel anxious, and you feel scared of them, and then you start to avoid them. And when you avoid your feelings, they instead go into anxiety and depression and relationship problems and things like that.
Yeah, that's really interesting and so important, both to understand these. And I've also heard that like depression is almost like energetically staying in the past, and anxiety is like trying to change the future. So it's like we're trying to move through timelines, but not realizing that we're here all the time. We're here in the present.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. And I'm also thinking about because I have this interest. I've had other guests talk about this. I really wanted to hear from your perspective about highly sensitive people or person, HSP, because the highly sensitive is usually someone that is really, what I've understood, can be prone to feeling these things, because things can become very overwhelming quite fast, because there's so many, especially in the fast-paced life, and there's a lot of demands, and all of this that maybe with time becomes more and more difficult. Do you work with that type of personality trait, actually?
I think about highly sensitive patterns as like a combination of the what people are born with, like a temperament, and like that some people are more sensitive, and some people have easier to have a lot of feelings and things. But often with those people, you also can see that they have been things has happened in their childhood, and it doesn't have to be like big traumas. Often it is more about how your emotions have been met from your parents. If they have been really open for all your emotions, have been able to guide you, have been safe themselves, and been able to regulate their own feelings and your feelings. So often you can see that there has been a lack of that kind of caring for those people. So you get patterns in yourself where you get really sensitive, and that you try to or it has been more automatic when you are an adult, that you feel other people's feelings and you see other people's reactions. But when you are a child, it is more like you have trained yourself in that, always being like aware of your father's reactions or your mother's reactions, to adjust yourself to that. So it's like a pattern that you have trained all your life. And then your whole like nervous system gets more sensitive. So of course then you are more sensitive to other people and their reactions, but also to stress around you, or to when you are in a situation with a lot of stimulus and things. So often for those people, it is helpful to find ways and exercises to help yourself to calm down and be more, feel more safe, and not going around in a kind of threat system. But also to work a lot with your with feelings that maybe not feels allowed to have, like anger, and be able to when you connect with your healthy anger, it's easier to be able to protect yourself and set limits, and not feel the others people's feelings and reactions all the time.
Yeah, and I think that's also goes into, like, we also talk about empaths, which is more also on an energetic level, those that, because you can see there's different ways that we take in the situations of others into our own being. So I think when you have a little bit more intuitive and psychic openness, you also need to practice like compassion and self-care a lot, because it's tough to carry everything from all around you.
Yeah.
And to recognize also what is my feelings right now, and what are the other person's feelings.
Yes.
But that's, it's really about creating that environment. Sometimes it's hard, because if you're at a job where you're with people that feel different things, you don't have that much of a choice but to work with yourself, to also have that compassion for yourself and for the other person, to not get exhausted or get into that too much. And I'm also thinking about in relationships. Sometimes there are high expectations. There can be relationships that are not, all types of relationships, where there's not clear boundaries. Like, how do you see that often also, like in the clients that you meet, that there's like, it's boundaryless, it like you melt into other people around you, and that creates like this lack of compassion and self-care?
Yeah, a lot of people question their own feelings and their own needs and have a lot of focus on other people and their needs. And sometimes that you confuse that with having a lot of compassion for other people. But what it's more like when you have a lot of focus on others but not focus on yourself, often that's more driven from anxiety and fear of, if I'm not there for everybody else, then I will be alone. So for it to be like real compassion, you also need to have a lot of compassion for yourself and be like what you say, clear about like, this is my feelings and this is my needs, and I have the right to have them. And then I also can see a need in the other person and have a genuine wish to help that person. So that kind of compassion isn't like anxiety driven, it's more compassion driven. So because if you all the time focus on other people's needs and forget your own, that is like the road to get to burnout and to you're not often that doesn't lead to like healthy relationships, and often you go to depression or a lot of anxiety after a while.
Yeah, that's really important to work with yourself and with your relationship to others and the world, so it's constantly an evolution, and new situations and people always arise, so there will always be something more to learn about yourself, about life and everything. I think that's great. And have we covered everything that you wanted to share? Have I missed anything? Is there anything in your work that do you think is important for the listeners to hear right now?
I think it's important to think about that you can do a lot on your own, that you don't have to, that not everyone needs to go to therapy and really work with things that way. It's you can do a lot of like self-practice with yoga or mindfulness or compassion training and self-reflection. And it's more when you feel that you get stuck and you maybe you can be aware of like there is something uncomfortable in me and I can see it, but I don't know what to do about it. Then it's really a help to seek a psychologist or some therapist. But it's also really it's really fun, and it's a joy also to work with yourself because often when you talk about these kind of things, it can you talk about so many difficult things, and it's anxiety and depression, but it's also something healthy. Even if you not have a lot of self-criticism or anxiety, it's also something healthy, like going to the gym to work with yourself, because for all of us, the way our brain works, it's so easy for us to be triggered by things and to go into negative thoughts and to self-critical thoughts. So it's really helpful for everyone to work with themselves.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much to learn and to grow from. So I think it's really great. And yeah, I love everything that you shared. And how do you, if someone wants to work with you, like how does it, do you do it online, offline?
Yeah, I work both online and also at my private practice in Stockholm in Sweden. But now with the COVID situation, it has opened up a lot of also positive opportunities to work more online, both with clients but also running workshops. So
Yeah.
that's really nice to be able to be
Yeah,
more flexible.
exactly. I think that's great to open up, and we're also meeting people that we might not have met because usually things were like offline. So
Yeah,
now when we're going more online, it's great that we can connect like
yeah,
that. So I want to thank you so much. It was so great to talk to you, and thank you for sharing everything that that you do, and I've learned so much from you.
yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode will help you to discover a deeper part of yourself and your compassion, and how you can use compassion to truly heal yourself. And I really love this conversation. If you have anything you want to connect with Sofia about, or just reach out to her, you have all of her links in the show notes. And if you leave a review and rating on iTunes, I always do a free oracle card reading for you. So just connect with me on Instagram if you do leave a review. So let's take a deep breath in together, in through the nose, and exhale out through the mouth. And namaste.